first of the speakers that we have, some great people who've come here from a long way away, is President and CEO of Kaufman Fellowship Corporation, which is an amazing 2-year leadership program, particularly targeting investors involving mentorship, peer learning, with a focus on giving back. It's been going since 1994. He's an entrepreneur and an investor in Texas. He's run all sorts of businesses. He has a couple of 7-Eleven stores in Las Vegas, and once caught somebody who stole a Snickers. And he's run a furniture store, interior design firm, country club, golf network. Before that, he was a pro tennis player. He's here now to talk about talent and opportunity. Please welcome Jeff Harbach.
Thank you, David. That was great. That whole Snickers thing, though, that's my line, man. Jeez. Good morning. So my name's Jeff Harbach, and I'm the president and CEO of Kaufman Fellows, and I am honored to be here. By show of hands, first, who is a Kaufman Fellow in the room? Raise your hand. There's a couple of us. Who here has heard of the Kaufman Fellows before? Raise your hand. Excellent. Excellent. So I want to talk to you about innovation and its role in the global economy. See, we at Kaufman Fellows, and I believe that the power of innovation has the ability to revolutionize the way that we live. And like Mr. Kaufman, I believe that innovation drives the economic growth across the world. So when I take a step back and I look at this picture, this is a picture, we're headquartered in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley, but this is a picture of my hometown, Austin, Texas. Austin's known as the second fastest growing city in the US. And that growth is being driven by startups, not by big corporations. It's being driven by the startups that are being funded by venture capital and that are being supported by an ecosystem that wants to support innovation happening around it. That's what's driving that growth. This is an interesting graph. You saw one similar to this in Danny's presentation, but this measures global GDP, or GDP by country, with the something called the Global Entrepreneurship Index, or the level of support that a country receives or entrepreneurs receive in that country for entrepreneurship. And you see there's a very strong correlation between high GDP and high levels of entrepreneurship. Now, looking at this, the UAE is actually doing very well. It's very high. It's very close to the correlation curve on the graph. It's very high in entrepreneurship, and it's also very, very high in global GDP. With that said, just a 10% increase in the level of enablement and support for entrepreneurs in the UAE would equate to a $56 billion per year impact on the GDP of the UAE. That's incredible. And what we see is that job creation is happening with startups. All net new jobs are being created by companies that are 0 to 5 years old. In fact, in the US, over the last 30 years, 2 million jobs per year has been added every single year by startups and by companies that are 0 to 5 years of age. Whereas the rest of them, maturing companies and older companies, actually are a net decreaser in jobs. And as we talk about this, we say a 10% lift in global GDP, and by lift we mean support for entrepreneurs in a country. Things like attracting talent, attracting risk capital, and enabling more risk capital to be present for entrepreneurs. Just a 10% bump will add $22 trillion to global GDP. That's huge. But I'm not telling anybody in this room something that you don't already know. You know this. You've seen this. We had the announcement of the sci-fi city in the desert just a week ago. And these are some of the headlines that we saw. And we see that their focus is on diversifying its economy to focus less on crude oil. So this is not news for the people in this room. This innovation, these big ideas, they're being driven by these smart entrepreneurs that are the heroes in the room. They are the innovative ones. They are the dreamers. They are the ones that are creating this economic growth and the companies that are leading to that. And behind every great entrepreneur is someone that is in the back supporting them through that. And that support is coming from the investor. Because you see, entrepreneurs, their job is to find innovations and to find holes in a market and to go very deep on focusing on product market fit. That is their genius. But we know that there's so much more that goes into building sustainable big companies. Things like what you see here. And that's really difficult to do. Very difficult for one person to do. We've seen some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world get lots and lots of help to be able to do this well. And so what they need is a trusted advisor that can understand the complexities and the relationships that it takes to build a big company in whatever ecosystem they're in. So who is that trusted advisor? It is the venture investor. So at Coffin Fellows, we bleed this. We care deeply about the relationship between the entrepreneur and the investor. We live it, we breathe it. This is something that we focus on purely at Coffin Fellows. And what we're doing is we're raising the bar in venture capital. Our goal is to identify, screen, and accelerate the folks that are already leaders in their ecosystem, people that are already doing this business, and make them better at it. Because we believe that basically if we take the best investors that are out there, they're already in maybe the top 5% of their business. But the 5% of their business from a returns perspective isn't good enough. We actually want to take them to the top 1% in the business. That's our goal. And we do that because we believe that increase from the top 5% to the top 1% is not a step function linear growth. That growth in just those small points can have an exponential impact on your career through doing things like cultivating behavioral fitness. We focus on this. Through identifying their unfair advantage based on their own zone of genius and what they do well. By developing intuition and pattern recognition to understand what's going on both in their ecosystem and around the globe. And then also that leads them to see the deals and believe in the deals that nobody else is seeing and nobody else is believing in. See, what's funny about our business is that there's lots of complexities around being a venture capital investor and supporting entrepreneurs, but the metrics that we're judged on are actually pretty simple. It's, did you invest in the right deal, or did you invest in the wrong deal? And the deal that you invested in, was it a consensus deal? Was it a deal that everybody followed? Or was it a non-consensus deal, ones that just went, whoa, that doesn't look like a good idea to me? Well, let's take a look at that. If you invest in the wrong deal, you're hosed. That's not going to work out well for you. So we'll just scratch that one off the list. If you invest in the right deal, but it's the deal that everybody else is investing in, you're looking at a 2x return. But if you invest in the right deal that nobody else is investing in, that's where you want to be. But that takes courage. That takes guts. Training 2x investors, that's easy. We can do that. Frankly, you don't even need us to do that. Training 10x investors, that's really hard. And that's what we do. Speaking of 10x investors, this is Jason Green. Jason Green is the founding member of Emergence Capital Partners in the Valley. Jason Green was a Coffin Fellow in Class 1, and he's one of our board members at the Coffin Fellows. Jason Green has made it his career in doing 10x plus deals. In fact, 31% of the time Jason Green invests in an early stage company, that company ends up being a $1 billion outcome. That's incredible. So Jason's an outlier in many ways, but Jason's not alone. There are many people in the Coffin Fellows Network also doing this. People like Josh Stein and Mahmoud Hamid, who've also been very successful in investing in non-consensus type deals. This is Box. You can see in this example that Josh led the A, showed it to Mahmoud, who led the B, showed it to Jason, who led the D. And then you flip it around with Yammer, where it's the same thing happening over and over and over again. This type of deal sharing is what happens in the Coffin Fellows Network. And now think of that in terms of those are 3 individuals that we're talking about, but take that to over 500 fellows doing this in over 40 countries around the globe. That's real impact, seeing lots and lots of deals. You know, within the Coffin Fellows program, over 100 firms have been formed. New funds have been formed. Over $995 billion has been raised, and in the Kaufman Fellows program, 75% of those that go through the program are senior decision makers in their firms. So this is not an entry-level program. This program is focused on taking leaders in venture capital and accelerating their careers and their learning beyond the rate of their own experience. And so, how do we get here? How did Kaufman Fellows get here? Well, we got here by, number one, focusing on world-class teaching. That's what we've been doing for the last 22 years. Matching that with world-class research that we've been doing around this industry and some of the data that you're seeing here. And then that's not enough. So we've also been doing investing. 10 years ago, we helped found TrueBridge Capital Partners. Many of you may have heard of TrueBridge. TrueBridge is a very successful fund of funds. It's been a partner of ours, and we're extremely thrilled for the success that they've had. TrueBridge has used things like, they've used their data to create things like the Midas List, which measures, or is one measure of the success of venture investors in this industry. And now we're using those same techniques to launch the Kaufman Fellows Fund, which is a new initiative that we've just been taking on. My colleague Colin West is here. You can talk to either one of us about this more if any of this data interests you, because we have lots of it. And the board members that are involved with us, they love this vision, and they see the importance of making sure that we have good people doing good things to support entrepreneurs. You can see a quote here by Brad Feld, but these are some of our advisors and our board members. Each one of these individuals is on our board. So that's Kaufman Fellows. That's who we are. That's what we do. I'm happy to talk more about this. But now I want to talk to you about venture as an asset class. And how do you get success in venture as an asset class? And so here's the typical curve of returns in venture. You can see this 15-year portfolio, 15-year VC fund performance. Many of you have probably seen curves similar to this. And what you see here is that the median return in this business is actually not great. 7.24% is not going to get it done in terms of allocating capital. But the mean is being pulled away by that top quartile of deals, making the mean actually be over 13%. That's actually very attractive. So how do you get in to that mean or get into those top quartile deals? That's the real question. How do you access the top deals in the business, the top entrepreneurs that are doing this business in very innovative and bold ways? And so we think that's done through access, through connectivity, and through decision-making. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, the world is flat. Heck, I've used this phrase many, many times. What we mean by saying the world is flat is that the world is incredibly connected, maybe more connected than we've ever been. Certainly more connected than we've ever been. But the reality is the world isn't flat. It's actually pretty spiky. And it's spiky around economic hubs of innovation. It's spiky around areas where entrepreneurs are leading economic growth through the innovations that they're creating, and they're creating a gravitational pull and force around them. And so this is one area where this is a unique ecosystem in the world. And there's a hub here being created by many things that you've seen and some of the things you're going to continue to hear about at this conference. And we're incredibly excited about the economic activity and innovation activity that's happening here in MENA and specifically in Dubai. And the fortunate thing for people in this room is that you have a trusted partner in Becco Capital to be able to help identify and invest in innovations happening right here in your own backyard. And the great thing is Becco's not alone. They're doing this connected to a trusted global network of VCs that are doing this all over the globe. Danny mentioned it, talking to people like Nico Berman from Argentina, and many, many others. They're doing this through this connected network, which is really, really key. And they're leveraging things like gaining insights from global experts and tying into foreign markets. That's the power of the Kaufman Fellows Network, and that's the power of being connected. So what we see here, that we think is interesting, is just 5 years ago, the level of VC investment and VC activity was heavily focused, over 60% focused on North America. But that tide is shifting to where now today we see actually only 37% of global innovation investing happening in North America. The tide is shifting because of things like accelerating internet access and all the different things that you see here. This is allowing for new innovations to be driven in ecosystems around the world that aren't just in North America. But the trick here still is how do you access those top deals in each ecosystem around the world? How do you gain that access? We talk about this simple framework calling it, can you see the deal, can you pick the deal, and can you win the deal? That's how you get success in venture, broken down very simply. Seeing the deal is all about great. There's lots of deals all around the world. Picking the deal is all about your filter and all about your investment thesis. And winning the deal, you've already gotten your decision-making process in place. Now you have to actually convince the entrepreneur to take your capital, because the great entrepreneurs do have a choice. So you actually have to win the ability to participate and help these entrepreneurs grow. So that's the why of VC. Now, really briefly, I want to talk about why now. What's happening in this region? This is a really exciting time that we've seen in this region in terms of the transition happening into a knowledge-based economy. And as we've seen, the people in this region and across the world are recognizing that oil is not the most valuable resource that we have. Now, talking about technology revolutions, I think it's important to talk about this for a second. We see this, technology revolutions happen in waves. And you can see how at the beginning of a technology revolution, there's an eruption. There's some big technology, big innovation that happens. Things like the printing press, or the steam engine locomotives, for locomotives, or the microprocessor. These cause this frenzy of activity that then ultimately results in a pop, a bubble pop, or a pullback, to wait for the technology to catch up to the activity and the frenzy that's been happening. But once it does, once that technology catches up, then we see what we call a golden age of investing. And we've seen this happen over and over again through the Industrial Revolution, for the Steam Revolution. On and on, we see the same wave happening where there's a big excitement and frenzy, there's a pop, and then there's a golden age of investing. And now we are in the IT revolution, where we've seen the internet mania that's happened, we've seen the dot-com bust, and now today we are in the golden age of investing, where we think there are multiple opportunities, maybe more than we have ever seen before because of how pervasive technology is in our lives. You've seen this in some of the presentations already. And it's changing the way that we manufacture goods, the way that we do business, the way that we provide health care, the way that we commute. These opportunities are pervasive across many different industries, many different sectors, and it's the entrepreneurs that are driving this activity. And here's just some quick market data, and this is incomplete and young, but you can see from this that there is lots of activity happening here, and it's just the beginning. There's more and more activity that's going to be happening in areas like these and many others yet to be developed. So it's a very exciting time to be investing in technology. So, to summarize, we believe that entrepreneurs are the heroes. We believe that they are the ones that are developing innovative companies that are driving economic growth. At Coffin Fellows, we believe that they need a trusted advisor, someone to help them through this growth process. We believe that VC as an asset class is extremely interesting and lucrative if you can invest in the top quartile, top decile of deals. So that's the way that we view the world, but you have to be able to do it. Oh, and also that we believe that there's been no more exciting time to invest in technology than right now. But if you're going to invest in technology, you need to do it through what we call smart connected capital. Smart being investors that focus on behavioral fitness. Connected being investors that are connected with a global network to help them understand the trends that are happening around the world. And capital meaning the investors that are connected to the resources to aggregate those resources to help the entrepreneurs reach their dreams. And that's what we do at Coffin Fellows. Thank you.